What's up, Wes? How you doing today, man?
Hey Travis, thanks for having me.
Oh, man, thank you so much for being here on the Artispreneur podcast presented by Fandid. Man, if you guys haven't heard of Wes and the incredible things that he's been doing for a while now, please go make sure to check him out. Wes has been a good friend of mine for years. We met each other, man, I can't even remember when.
Before 2010.
Before 2010, right.
Let's just say that. I think.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, we go way back, man. We went to the White House together.
Oh, like
Back in the day, we met President Obama and Michelle.
I was a big fan of Travis and his band early on. And it's so crazy. We did some shows together. I always wanted to say that we did some shows together, but I'm not even a musician. That's the funny thing.
I love that. That's the thing. I do want to tell people that, like, I spoke with Jason, Jubilee, and it's just funny because, like, we all did shows together, like even with New Heights did a tour with Jubilee back in the day. But honestly, I do have to say this real quick. If it wasn't for Wes and Wong Fu taking a chance on New Heights, we would not be I would not be here today. And I know that you're probably going, no, but honestly, bro, because you allowed New Heights, because you guys, created ISA, this incredible festival, and New Heights was able to get on, the opening slot on the last year, it really just became such a node and such a massive catalyst for my entire career, man. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. But the talent was there, the enthusiasm was there. So I honestly think if it wasn't us, it'd be someone else that would bring you, to where you are now. And even just thinking about that time when we met, it was a very exciting and different time for all of us as artists, because we were seeing like an empowerment and a way for us to show our art without any gatekeepers. And I say this was like a very early Asian American arts, music, dance, film festival.
All of it, man.
All of it.
It was like Coachella plus, like, what is it? Sundance, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like variety show.
It was a celebration, and it was also a place to discover new talent. Clara C came out of that. Like, we found her.
Shout out.
And I think, now there's a ton. There's like Head in the Clouds. There's all these other events that celebrate Asian American talent. And they're great. And ISA is kind of like moved on to other things, but it's great to know that we had a place in that very early on. And Travis and New Heights, you guys definitely helped us grow that and bring a new sound and identity to it all.
Man, yeah, dude, I'm just so grateful, bro. And I'm sure I can speak on behalf of a lot of other creatives as well, man, because I don't know if you guys knew at the time, but you were really like affecting change on a bigger way than I think even when I was up there on stage, like, even knew about.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we knew what we were doing. We were we were artists that were like connecting with other artists and having a good time throwing a show for people that wanted to see their community represented, but we didn't know the effects, like, in totality of what we were doing. And then years later, we meet people and they bring up these things and they're in positions of power, right? Mm-hmm. And like these kids that went to the ISA shows have graduated and found jobs and are, studio execs or creative directors, and they're like, that show changed things. Like watching New Heights or watching Wong Fu, it inspired me to do this, and now they're able to pass it along and bring up others in the new generation too. So we never knew we didn't know the extent of the effect, right?
I love that. I mean, I feel like I've spoken like a true entrepreneur, right? It's like we never know the extent of the effect, but we go for it, right? And honestly, that's probably a great segue. Would love to just have everyone. I'm sure people have heard this story before, but like I haven't, and I would love to hear kind of your origin story and really kind of understand these catalysts too that kind of have propelled you into where you're at. But would love to know, where were you born? Where did you grow up? Mm-hmm. And I guess the third part of that question is, okay, what is your earliest memory where art or film first affected you emotionally?
Wow, great question. Let's start with the easy stuff. I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised in the Bay Area in California.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And I went to school at UC San Diego, which is a science biology school, but I went there for the arts. We were like the armpit of the campus that no one cared about. In a way, it made no sense to go there. I actually got into Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and I said, well, I'm doing art, so it doesn't really matter where I go. Like, it's not like Berkeley's art program is like that much better. That would have been a totally different multiverse reality if I went there. You know, probably been pretty successful too, I guess. But because going to San Diego, it wasn't a film school, it wasn't an art school, it was like biotech. And because of that, the class, like everyone in the arts program kind of got to know each other really well. And that's where I met Philip Wang and Ted Fu, and we connected, and we were making videos for fun in class and also out of class. And that was before YouTube. So just to put a timestamp, that was 2003, 2004 is like around when we met. So like a whole 2 or 3 years before YouTube was created. And so online video was a novelty. It was things that only university kids would pass along because you had high-speed internet. And
was this like E-Bombs World and like those days?
It was like around E-Bombs World. Yeah, exactly. So when we started making videos, they got passed around and no one else was really doing it, let alone Asian Americans. And we were casting ourselves in these videos. We were doing like sketches, music videos that people connected with, because it's like, you're not going to see those faces on TV or in the movies, but there's this group of 3 Asian guys in San Diego making videos. We got our name kind of out there from that. To circle back to your earlier question, I've always been really into science fiction and movies, and I didn't go to the movies a lot, and I didn't watch a ton of TV, but I was exposed to like a few of the staples, you know, Star Wars, Back to the Future, Top Gun. Yeah. Those three were my childhood. Top Gun, not so much for the adult stuff. I didn't understand that. But the Jetsons stuff were cool. Yeah. Am still like a big like toy
collector.
Toy figure collector, because I felt like they're like the tools for kids to like use their imagination and like create worlds. And I think I always translated what I saw on the screen. I always like wanted the toy, because then I could like continue the story in my own head and like play with it, you know? Yeah. So it's like every Saturday morning cartoon, you know, even comic book stuff like Spider-Man, I was like, oh, well, in my head, Transformers, like that, I see the story on screen, but like I want to keep it going, and I want to make my own. So like I play with toys a lot, and like I create these worlds and stuff, and do like, it kind of evolved into like stop motion, then making stop motion videos with my dad's camcorder.
No way.
And action figures are great because you have all the articulation to like move it, and then they become their own little actor. Because, you know, I didn't want to be in front of camera. Like there's certain kids that when they play, they are the character, right? Yeah, like they have the sword and the shield, and essentially they want to be the hero, the actor. For me, it was always like filming something else. So I guess I always saw myself as the one behind the camera.
Wow, that's really amazing. So how old were you when you first did your like first stop motion little?
It was it's probably like 11 or 12. It was like right after elementary school. And then in high school, I don't know if you had this, but like in English classes, that sometimes the teacher gave you the option of like either writing or doing a presentation or making a video. And I always opted for the video because I was like, oh, that's way more fun. Yeah. So in our group projects, we'd like create these little videos of whatever book that we're reading, you know, or whatever thing we had to present. We'd film a little sketch or a little short about it, and it was super ghetto. Like we would, to have music, we would have the camera rolling, and then we'd have like a little speaker playing the music next to it, so it's picking up the music from the speaker.
That's amazing.
We couldn't edit. We didn't have any software, so we're editing all on camera. So it's like whatever you shoot, that's the order that that's the cut.
It's like the most practical ever.
Yeah. So I think as technology kept going, like I found new ways to harness the imagination And you basically any assignment, any school assignment, if there was a way to make it more creative and fun for me, then I'd do that.
Well, was there a moment that you saw like a through line, like in high school or something, that like gave you the confidence or like allowed you to dream that this could be a career, or was this always like a hobby and I'm gonna go get my job and I'm gonna do this as a hobby?
It was actually the opposite. I think I convinced myself that it was too hard to make it a living. Like, I never thought I'd be a filmmaker because I thought the way to do that is you go to film school, you start at the very bottom as a production assistant and work your way up, which is kind of true. It's essentially that is the way to do it. Things have changed a lot since then. But for me, my parents weren't so strict. They never said no. They never said, no, you can't do that. But they did imply that you should find something that has like applications like economics or, science, of course. But they never said no, which I know I'm like very lucky to even have that. So they let me go into the arts, and I told myself filmmaking could be a hobby, but I should do like design or graphic design or any kind of something that could be applied to other industries. Like, I was thinking advertising or something like that. So I told myself that it'd be too hard. And then when I got to college, I kind of finished all my classes and was taking film classes for fun. Oh. And that's when I met Phil and Ted. It was all very, very organic. Even now, it feels weird. Sometimes it feels weird thinking that I'm a filmmaker because we have fans that have gone to film school and they're looking, they look up to us, and it's like, I never had the education they had. We were so ghetto, but in a way, not knowing the rules means you can do anything.
Yo, that is so true.
But then also, like, not knowing the rules means you can do a lot of things wrong if you're put to a certain standard, right? So, like, the film school kids, there is a reason why the industry is the way it is and why they have a process for everything, and that makes a lot of sense. But if you're just wanting to start, then do what you have to do to just make it happen.
Man, I love that. Do what you have to do just to make it happen, because I think that, like, speaking as a child of immigrants, it's almost like it's exactly what, our parents and our ancestors had to do, right? It was just like, just you figure it out. And I think so many times I feel like as an artist, maybe there's like, I don't know, I think too much in like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this, or maybe I'm not supposed to do that. But really, I think the thing that's helped me a lot is what is it that just you can't stop doing, right? Like, what is it that just continues to magnetize you over and over again? To kind of go back to, your upbringing a little bit, is it that you want to continue the story? Is that what keeps you magnetized to wanting to tell more stories? Or is it like the medium? Yeah, what kind of keeps you coming back?
I think it's like, as creatives, it's hard to turn your brain off, and we can always find the story in something. Because of the success of Wong Fu, I always think about how could that story best be shared? Like, what version of this story would be the best one to tell? And also, like, at this point, Wong Fu's existed for almost 20 years, and to know that we've had that influence, that keeps us going. I mean, it sounds super corny, but you know what it's like. When you meet that person, yeah, corn's the best.
And cheese.
Corn and cheese.
You read my mind.
Yeah, like when you meet those people that their eyes light up and you see the effect that you've had. I think we're at a point in our career where we're giving back and we're helping others create. And this is directly related to Fandit. Like, we're seeing the power of that, and we've created and we continue to create, but now it's about kind of reaching back and seeing how we can bring up others and inspire others. So that definitely keeps me going. But there actually has been, like, the confidence hasn't always been there for me, and often it isn't. I think there's been times where I've had a lot of doubt and even thought of exploring other things, because in this span of from after college till now, it's all I've known. So there have been moments where I was like tired or questioning my own creative confidence and thinking maybe I should try something else. Like, even certain relationships were strained. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it's like, would it hurt so much to try something else? So I did. But in the end, I was like so attached to, I kept thinking like, I can do this one thing. I can do graphic design, but at the end of the day, I'm still thinking about the story that I want to write and shoot, So it's like, I got to listen to that. It's like what you said, what is the one thing that you can't stop doing? And I think I think storytelling, filmmaking, or just any kind of sharing of a story. And these days it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be a film crew and stuff. It could be like an Instagram story, you know, like you shoot something and you put Travis's song on it, and it's a film. It's a short film. So
it's almost like the you know, we are tribal, right? Human beings, we are tribal as we are, and the values and things that like our ancestors, you know, had, we still are, right? And I think like, and the thing that that we used to do was, you know, we tell stories by the fire, and it's just something that like has continued to, yes, evolve, but like it's crazy to think that the main crux of storytelling is still so addictive to, not just as a creator, but also as, I mean, as a viewer, right? We want to ingest these stories. We want to hear more. You know, the Greeks were obsessed, right? The Romans were obsessed with all these different stories, and I think it's almost like how we understand history, right? It's how we understand who we are, our culture. I mean, as an AAPI creative yourself, I mean, you know, we've talked before, but like there must have been so many things that, you know, felt like an uphill battle, especially in this industry. I mean, if I can ask you, what are like one or two things that most surprised you about the film industry? I know that you kind of took in an adjacent way, you know, through there, but what's kind of been the most surprising thing with this whole journey?
First, I think it's important to recognize being in California, we're already very privileged to be surrounded by AAPI creatives, and in that sense, we're somewhat. It is a bubble here in California. You don't realize that we are very much a minority still, and I think when we went to speak at different universities across the country, you're finding the one Asian kid, you know, a boy or girl that was the only one in their class, and they want to stand out or they want to do a certain thing, and that's a really big reality check. So I think first recognizing the privilege of being surrounded by AAPI creatives and community in California is important, because I think like it's very different here on the coast, on New York and California, you know, where we are surrounded. When we came out of college, we were right away trying to pitch movies and stuff and shows, and at that time, no studio had like their digital arm. They didn't have, of course, streaming didn't even exist yet. Netflix was still mail the CD or the DVD kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we saw the success of our stories online that we're putting on Wongfu, like on YouTube and stuff. We're seeing the numbers. And then as soon as we tried to pitch that to, you know, the studios, obviously that was a reality check too, where it wasn't so much in our face that like Asian, we don't want to do that. It was just like a very pass kind of thing, like we'll pass or some. I mean, it became very clear to us Hollywood was still very old fashioned, and that wasn't a huge surprise, to be honest, because, you know, we were kind of told that. But then seeing how festivals kind of started embracing us, I think we were so new to it that like remember when new media was termed new media? Like every festival, film festival had a new media kind of program, and we were a part of like everyone's new media program.
It seems like such a weird thing to say now, like new media.
Yeah.
Now in this age.
But that's the only thing they knew how to call it. So I think the biggest surprise has just been being able to see the transition and the progress from the very start of not really knowing what we did, like these kids that were making home videos, putting them online, people were watching them, and then slowly people recognizing the power of it, and then now it becoming kind of the mainstream form has been a pretty big surprise. I think the progress, of the shows and the movies that people are in. At first, back in 2000, before 2010s and even earlier, it was you'd see the same faces play the same roles, Asian roles on screen, and now our friends, it's literally so hard to keep up with all our friends on all the shows and movies, and that
amazing,
super exciting. And at the same time, it's like over the last 2 years, it's been such a paradox of progress, but also a very harsh reality of Asians in America too, like back to back from Parasite winning, you know, at the Oscars, to like Asian violence, like back to back. It was like, where do we stand in this country, you know? And I think I might be diverting a little bit, but
No.
it just shows that we're still trying to find our place, and we're trying our best to represent authentically, and not just like create, but also survive.
Yeah, even survive right now. I mean, I think that kind of goes into my next question is like, you guys made a decision early on, and you as a filmmaker still, are deciding to, the word sellout is something that you guys have not done, and you guys have stayed authentic. I mean, how is staying authentic to your stories about the Asian American experience, how has that helped or hindered or both, the creative process and the success of your films?
It's helped because we're a specific voice that was underrepresented, so we're super proud to do that. At the same time, we recognize that we are one voice in the community that we can't represent all Asian Americans. Like at the time, people turned to us because there was no one else. Like Wong Fu was kind of the central hub to find Asian Americans in stories regularly, in sketches, in comedy and dramas. And now, thankfully, and it's awesome that there are so many options. There's so many Asian American creators that are telling the stories in their voices. One of the challenges has always been people expecting us to tell their story, and because we haven't yet, and it's not because we don't want to, but first, if we don't want to do it inauthentically, if we didn't have that experience, then we don't feel right telling it, and we didn't want people to assume that it's like we're trying to dismiss certain Asian American experiences or not represent them. It's like we are one group,
right?
That is under 10 people in our, like, that's like, I don't know if people realize that, like, it's just a few of us after all these years that are still going or still trying to tell these stories. But we've expanded, and we've found other voices, and we've found other creators, and we're trying to push other stories, share other stories that are beyond the few employees that are, or the few, writers in the team. But that's not like a negative. I think I just want people to realize, like, we were never trying to say that we could be the voice of every Asian American. Like, we had a very specific upbringing that inspires the stories that we tell, and we hope that others can tell their stories too. And it's, instead of like, Wong Fu, why aren't you doing this? We hope we can inspire people to say, we can do that too, and we will tell our story of it.
Man, I love that. I feel like it's almost like the the product of when you're one of the first kind of revolutionaries, right? It's very specific, right? To you guys are telling stories about your experience, and it definitely resonates with a lot of people, especially because Asian Americans, we're kind of, it's interesting, right? We definitely honor our heritage, I mean, I was born in the Philippines, but I was raised here, and so, we're kind of like people like on this island type of thing, sometimes like stuck in between. And I think that you guys were one of the first people that kind of, in a really good and helpful way, like not necessarily planted a flag, but like put down like roots to say, this is who we are. This is who, at least my experience. And I want to tell that. I mean, it makes sense that people would, want you guys to tell other stories, but in a sense, I like what you said, because that's what Hollywood did for a long time. They were telling other people's stories that were not writing them, and we kind of see, where that can lead.
It wasn't so conscious. It's like conscious. We were at first, like when we were still in college, we were casting ourselves because it was easy. So, it's Asian friends making videos about what we know. It wasn't like so strategic. Like, we need to have, one Asian to represent every community, and that way we can have the most reach. Like, we weren't thinking that much. We were just working with friends, right? And now it's we do think a little bit more about that. And if we are telling a story, like, how can we bring in more people to make a more accurate depiction of our community? Not everyone is East Asian. Not everyone is of a certain class or social class or whatever. So we try to mix it up as much as we can. But even still, as much as we try, like, there's always going to be an infinite number of stories that we're missing and characters that we're not showing. So hopefully we inspire, more people to tell their stories. And and people can recognize we're doing our best to do what we can. But I don't want it to sound like we don't own our place or our what we've accomplished. Like it's been super flattering and humbling, and we know how fortunate we are to have the support after all these years. And just trying to stay afloat now is tough. Like YouTube has changed so much. The way people consume videos, the videos that they want to consume has changed so much since those days that we talk about, you know. So it's like we joke about Wong Fu being a legacy channel, and it's very true because the fans that we grew up with all have kids now, you know, and it's their kids that are watching now. So how are we, this company that's like their parents' age, supposed to make stuff that appeals to both the parents and the kids?
Right.
And that's what we're trying to figure out, and it's an ongoing question.
Man, I mean, if I can ask you about that, you know, backing up a little bit, like, you know, you guys are making videos and everything, but when did you guys kind of recognize that this is a business that we should really commit to? And kind of how has that trajectory, you know, helped? I mean, it's really amazing I guess what I'm saying is that the typical route that I've seen, right, is like a production deal, right, with it, like as a filmmaker, right? You utilize all of your leverage, you know, you create something great and then you leverage that into getting a deal. And it's very akin to a record deal kind of, right? Like they provide all the resources, they give you an office on set or, you know, at the studio, and all this stuff. But then at the end of the day, they own the IP of the project. Yeah. And you guys have stayed independent, you know, and I'm sure you've done deals and things like that, but you've stayed independent and you guys still own everything. What was the catalyst to make you decide that and not go the usual?
The fan support that kind of transition to brands and traditional outlets recognizing that they came to us instead of us going to them was a big difference. But the first time we knew that we should probably become a business was in 2007, like right after like 3 dudes that graduated had arts degrees. We were making videos for fun, and we were shooting weddings and nightclub event coverage to pay the bills. That's literally the story that we tell everyone. It's completely true. Like people don't know that. And we shot local TV commercials, really anything that would help us
hustling,
fund ourselves and like keep, you know, pay the bills, but also fund these like side projects. And then we realized we tried something. We printed a T-shirt that was worn in one of the short videos called Just a Nice Guy that kind of blew up. And that design was original that I did based on my interest in graphic design. And that Nice Guy shirt spawned an entire merchandise line that kept us afloat since then. And that let us break away from doing all the freelance video work. So we started selling our own merch. This brand was able to fund everything else, and that's kind of like business wise. We were like, oh, this could keep us going. And then colleges were inviting us to speak, and that was another revenue stream. And then slowly, brands were understanding that, you know, online video was a very good outlet and it could be a very specific targeted thing. So we were getting brand deals to either integrate their product or like create a story around their product. And that's been something that we've been doing ever since. Like I feel really proud that we can integrate, like do a commercial without losing the authenticity of Wong Fu Productions. Like I feel like we're pretty good at that.
Man, that's really amazing to hear, because I think that like growing up as an artist myself and a lot of artists that I mentor, we think that like our art is the revenue generator that allows, you know, us to stay afloat. But oftentimes it's other ancillary ways of seeing revenue that then pays for the ability. Like, you know, I remember reading about my favorite band years ago, Dashboard Confessionals, in a Rolling Stone article when he was at the height, you know, they were at the height of their success. And he was saying that the only reason that we can be on tour is from selling merchandise, because the music doesn't pay out as much just because of the way the contracts are and because of the revenue, which is, you know, just, you know, it's one of the reasons that like, you know, drove me to start Fandid. But it sounds like to me what you're saying is that it was oftentimes it's like or at least in this situation, the art and the films were kind of like the marketing for the brand of Wong Fu that helped propel you guys. Is that?
Yeah, kind of. I think the difference is Wong Fu is a very unique channel on YouTube. First, we don't make the typical content. It's longer and and the subject matter isn't what you usually find on YouTube. It's comedic sketches, like original, highly produced comedic sketches, or like long form dramatic, like love stories, or family related things, like relatable content that is highly produced and original. And there was a time when there was more of that, but we saw it kindly fade out because it's expensive to make, and it doesn't really pay for itself. And we don't have regular releases. It's not, we aren't one of those, new video every Tuesday.
Right.
Which all these things kind of don't add up to, like, why are we on YouTube, right? But because we were there from the very beginning, and we had such a strong fan base, we've been lucky enough to keep going. But that's changing now. And I don't want people to think you don't have to have regular releases to be successful. Like, you will be much more successful if you have. We haven't committed to that because it's tough with our type of content. So I think for a lot of channels these days, if they are regular and they're kind of playing the game of YouTube and trends, then your main revenue stream can be YouTube, from the ads and stuff. But because of our specific content, we depended on ancillary means, which was the merchandise, the sponsored videos, the branded videos, the tours, the speaking events, basically finding other ways that would supplement the ads.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, it's a grind, right? But I really always respected the art that you make because it is authentic, and it's not, because, I think a lot of creatives, and especially now, they would just want to know, like, they want to know the signs of the algorithm so they can play the algorithm.
Yeah.
But I think that's great for certain businesses. But if you're an artist, like you said, like, we have this story here, we have this thing here that we can't not get out. And I always say that our authenticity is who we are, and the stories that we tell. And I think the issue that I've had with all of these social media platforms is that we work so hard, right? Trying to impact people's lives in a great way. And then if our art does, they come to our channel and then they follow us, and then YouTube and the social media platform says, okay, you want your content to be seen by them, you have to pay us. And, for years as an artist, like, that's what we had. Like, we had our concerts, right? We had the ability to bring together people and go from a one-to-many type of model to, allow everyone to be affected by the art. But now it's almost like, it reminds me again of, like, kind of the major label thing of, like, gatekeeping, just because of economic forces. And, the issue I think that everybody's been trying to figure out for a long time is, how do we allow the artists to share, but then that can cut into the bottom line of these businesses. I mean, if I can ask you, like, usually I ask people, what are the parallels between, being an entrepreneur and being an artist? But it's like, you're literally both. You are both. If I can ask you, what are some of the parallels that you've seen with entrepreneurs and founders around you, and how have some of those, I guess, mentors or people around you helped you become a better business person?
Yeah, to be completely honest, like, I definitely lean more to the artist side than to the business side. I could recognize that. I think I wanted to believe once that I can be. Everyone wants to believe that they can, handle it all. But I've gotten to a point where I'm like, there's probably a business dev guy or girl that I should rely on, and I should focus on my strength.
Same.
And I mean, I think having a team, right? Having a team that you can delegate, and you can delegate in a way that you can focus on your strength, is the key. And I think, like, looking back from the old days to the kind of the evolution of Wong Fu, from three guys with the arts degree, we kind of took on roles unknowingly. I stayed very much in the creative. Phil was in the creative, but also, like, he's a people person. He was great for networking, still is. Ted kind of became our business guy, even went to business school, like night classes to like learn more and help us out. So I think because I could lean on a dependable team, and knowing that we were all in it together, like that was the glue that kept us together. And then at the end of the day, we all respected each other's skills, and we wanted this thing to keep going. And that's like the heart of the machine, or the animal that keeps running.
You know, you talked about delegating, and, you know, as an artist myself, as a solopreneur for seemed like, you know, 15 years now, it's like it's so hard sometimes, because especially as creatives, we have such a system, right? Like, I got the way that my, you know, covers are made, my music is made, and this thing, and then, you know, when you bring on people, it can sometimes, you know, take you out from your legs, because you might have to spend a month of training and all those things. But obviously at the end, it's better. You know, so much of the spirit and the mission of Fandid is to allow artists to gather greater sums of investment capital than, you know, donation-based, firms allow, right? Like, artists are you know, on you know, donation-based platforms, they're able to gather, you know, anywhere but like 10, you know, sometimes in the case of 20K for their project. But my issue with that was always, if it's donation-based, then if the product goes on, you know, if it's a company that has a product, or if the artist goes on and sees a lot of success, then, you know, there's not really upside owned by the people that really believe, the day one believers. And, you know, knowing your experience, especially with, you know, going the different route, and really having such a great relationship with your fans and with your supporters after all these years, if I can ask you, you know, just letting everyone know, Wes is an advisor for Fandid, and I'm so grateful for him to be able to be a part of the team. But, like, what is it about Fandid that first kind of got you interested in this concept of allowing fans to do more at the inception of a project than just transact when it's all done?
I think it's exactly what you said. It's not like a one and done. Like, if I'm a support, if there's a supporter of me, of a project that I want to do, they're along for the ride, instead of saying, "Oh, I helped them make that happen." They become like me going on a roller coaster and saying, "Hey, watch how much fun I have on the roller coaster from down where you are. Look how much fun it is. Thanks for helping me get on this roller coaster. It's a lot of fun." And they're like, "Wow, that looks like a lot of fun. I helped them do that." The difference is me saying, like, "Hey, let's get on the roller coaster together, and let's go, and like feel how fun it is with me." I think that's the difference. And just like knowing you behind it and your story, like it's so grounded in truth. And like, I'm not a musician, but I've seen your grind, and I've had a lot of musician friends that have echoed what you're telling me. So it's like knowing that you are behind it is already exciting. I think, like, when you first told me about the idea, even when I didn't fully understand it, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And if anyone should create this, it would be Travis, you know? So, and then it expanded, you know, you're like, well, music is just one way that Fandid could reach people. You know, it could be any project, really. And I think as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, we're all storytellers. As a visual storyteller, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I don't exactly know what project I would want to bring people on the ride with me for. Like, I don't know what that is yet, but to know that there's this platform that can do that is really exciting. And to be aligned with you and AJ Raphael and all the other amazing artists that we call our peers and our friends, like, that makes it even better. I hope people realize that. And I have so many friends that started out, you know, as kind of the grassroots artist, and now they're creating platforms to help the community. And that is like, that's growth. That's seeing beyond our own art and seeing how it can become a greater thing. So,
man, seeing beyond our art, man. I mean, really, like, I mean, I hate to kind of beat a dead horse for a really bad, it's a really bad analogy, or, you know.
It is. It really is. It's like, it should be more encouraging. It should be like pushing the horse to run another lap or something.
Right. Why don't you change that? But, you know, shout out to David Choi. I just have to say it. I mean, you know, he was one of the first people that helped me believe. I mean, I believe that, you know, success is always relative. You know, like, for me, all I wanted to do was just be able to get paid a decent wage, just like all my friends I went to college, could, but with my art. Because especially, we grew up in a generation where the only way that you had a shot at a career at creating art was through these massive institutions that wielded all this power. But the thing that's been changing, especially over the past decade, and I believe that you guys are one of the main catalysts for that for artists, was recognizing the power is less in bureaucracy and it's more in networks, right? It's because we've become a globalized, civilization, and because, we're now seeing things as they're happening literally every single day around the world. We're so much more connected, and I think that the human experience has been a lot. It's just like we see each other for who we really are, even if we speak different languages. I mean, you guys have so many. I mean, I remember when we went somewhere. Did we go to Singapore together or something? I think so. I think I had played with like Jason Chen or something, and you guys were there too.
Yeah.
And Singapore is amazing, right? But like, it was so cool to see, the same type of excitement for the art and the stories you're telling over there. And it was shocking because I'm like, this is a completely different life experience, but maybe it's not. And I mean, I've got one more question for you, Wes. We got to do a second one, man, because I mean, I just love talking to you about all this. Maybe we'll do it like over food or something and have the sound of like, the dishes and everything. But knowing all that you know now, right? And this is a question I ask everyone, but like knowing everything right now, if you could go back to your 15-year-old self, 15-year-old Wes, starting, maybe still making some stop motion. I don't know, nervous as hell because all 15-year-olds are. We don't know what to do with our hands or our bodies around anyone. If you could tell yourself one thing for what's ahead, what would it be?
Such a paradox because me not telling myself anything led me to where I am now.
Right.
So if I told myself something, that might actually derail me.
Yeah, right. And then a whole different multiverse.
Yeah. As you can tell, Back to the Future is
I love it. It's
silver. It's so good. The funny thing is, I actually went back to my high school for career day and like talked to 15-year-olds.
A full circle moment.
Yeah. And that was like almost 10 years ago. Like, so, it's really cliche, but like old people, I'm not saying I'm old, I'm saying I'm older than 15, but like old people always tell the younger people to like chill. And since you put an age to it, I will say this. I'll say, hey, your grades, your schoolwork, your academics, it's important, but don't stress too much about that. But if it's more general, broad life lesson, I think I tell them, don't be afraid to fail and explore. Don't just pursue a passion. Don't just chase a dream, but be brave enough to explore a lot of passions. Because what people don't talk about a lot is that dreams can fall through, but it doesn't mean you can't pursue other dreams. Like, you don't have to have one dream. And I think you, David Choi, are examples of that. Like, and I'm not even saying you failed the dream. Like, you added to your dream, right? It evolved. And I think evolution is a big part of like what I believe in. It's like things will change, and for the better, for the worse, but that change is like, it's fine. Like, it's part of the process. And I think if you accept that, then failures are never failures. They're just part of the process. And honestly, we hear it over and over, but when you fail is when you learn the most. And sometimes you don't even know that you're failing. Also goes without saying, like, that advice, that knowledge is so easy to give, but even to this day, I have trouble listening to my own advice. We all have scripts, right? When we go on tour and stuff, and speak. So it's like, it's been a while for me, so I will drop one of my own sound bites. There's two. One I used to say, I still say, is don't just make a living, live to make something. I think that is still true. I still believe in that. But also, like, I get it. You got to pay the bills. You got to make a living. But don't let it stop there. Like, whatever you do, make sure you're satisfying some part of your own need or your own fulfillment. Don't just fall into a cycle of life. And the second one is, it's more important to have a compass than a map or something like that. Because everyone wants a roadmap, right? Everyone wants a roadmap of like where to go and how to reach this thing. But if you lose the map, you're screwed. If you have a compass, you still have a direction. So take that like however you want. It's more of an analogy that I think speaks to people in their own way. Like I don't need to explain what that should mean.